South Africa's road network is the largest and longest interconnected road network in sub-Saharan Africa.
South Africans should be very proud of the road network. Those kilometers really ranked 10th longest in the world. And I think the paved side of it, we are around about 90th in the world. And of course, by far, the longest network in the continent. So it's a very valuable asset for the country.
However, there is an escalating road maintenance crisis. In 2024, the South African National Roads Agency estimated that it would cost 307 billion rand to repair and improve the country's national road system. Roads require maintenance. Regular road maintenance not only improves road conditions, but also extends their lifespan. In South Africa, a deterioration of the road system has resulted in soaring costs and a major financial impact on the economy and citizens.
So what happens is that generally is that an authority which has roads under it will look at these roads, and if the roads look like they're in reasonably good condition, then they kind of delay the maintenance on that. And unfortunately, a lot of wear and tear on roads happens beneath the surface. So by the time you see cracks or potholes, it's actually already gone too far. The water or the damage has happened below the road. What we see and what we call the road, this black surface, the tar surface, the bitumen, really is the waterproofing sealer. The road is the foundation below that. So that's one of the first things, is that in South Africa, we've allowed our roads to go beyond their so-called lifespans. We haven't really maintained them like we should have. The second thing is that we're acquiring roads that were built some time ago, and a fair amount of the roads in South Africa were built during the 70s and 60s. They were well-built roads, there's nothing wrong with them, but the types of vehicles that use them has changed, and the number of vehicles that use them has changed.
Making matters worse, Transnet has faced problems leading to a decline in freight rail capacity. As a result, most goods are currently transported by truck, increasing congestion on the country's roads and damaging infrastructure. So, who is responsible for road maintenance in South Africa? The short answer is that transport is a function of municipalities, provinces, and the national government, and this requires integrated planning.
One must remember that South Africa is made up of provinces. So we have a national country, South Africa, and there are national assets that the government has created, and one of those sets of national assets. So the national government has an agency that looks after those roads. That agency is called SANRAL. Quite often people have said bad things about SANRAL, but SANRAL is the agency that develops, maintains, repairs those roads, and it gets its funding through an allocation from government, and some of that funding comes through the fuel levy. Then provinces are responsible for the road network, the major roads in that province. They get a financial allocation from Treasury. They are required to give Treasury an indication of where they want to spend their money. And then we go to the next level of government, which is local government. So some of local government are what we know as metros, large areas of residential or built-up area. And then we have other local authorities that are more farming sort of related in terms of the wide spaces between towns and economic hubs and what have you. And that's generally where many of our challenges lie. So some of these authorities, the local authorities or the provinces, will have priorities that outweigh the roads.
As much as our mandate is to maintain and construct, that is the national roads, we do actually assist the province. First, we assist the province by taking over some of their roads, so they've been transferred from the province to SANRAL. If you look at about 2012, SANRAL only had about 2,400 kilometers of road network. But as I'm seated here, we are over 5,300 kilometers because that is roads have been transferred from the province into the Sanral network. So we are now responsible for the maintenance and improvement and upgrade of those roads. The main thing is this, that there's got to be sort of close working relationship between the different spheres of government, national, provincial, and it's local. Because if you take the Eastern Cape, you find that it's no use for us to say that, oh, we've got good national roads that is in the province, when the vast majority of our people cannot move. If you go into the eastern part of the province, they've got land, the land is lying fallow. One may say, no, people are lazy or whatever this. No, it is because the challenge is an adequate road network that will service them to make sure that they can move in between. You can imagine if I've got a chicken, I'm selling eggs. By the time I get to the market, I won't have eggs because the road condition is too bad.
In rural areas, roads are lifelines, and it is here where neglect in infrastructure is most evident. The state of roads in the Eastern Cape is particularly poor. Only 10% of the road network is paved, and there's a backlog of over 3,000 kilometers in order to bring it up to the average of other provinces. The province also has a massive capital backlog of about 31 billion rand required to help the province play catch-up and better service its citizens.
In the rural areas, you find that people got the potential, but maybe their activities are circumscribed either by the road network or maybe by not being able to find markets for themselves. So Sanral intervenes in that space to make sure that as we maybe move out at some point, people know exactly how to take care of their own life and livelihoods in those parts of the world.
The South African Human Rights Commission in 2023 initiated an inquiry into provincial road infrastructure and found that the state of roads in the Eastern Cape violates human rights.
Emergency vehicles simply cannot traverse the roads that are dilapidated, that are full of potholes, that are sometimes just not existing as a result of flooding that we so often see. So what does that mean? It means that they cannot get to the patients in time. It means that sometimes they cannot get to the patients at all because there are no bridges.
A lack of reliable infrastructure is also affecting attendance at schools.
Children are unable to traverse the infrastructure to perhaps reach their schools in the morning. We heard from the Department of Education, who then indicated the enrollment age becomes a bit later because the families can just not send their small little ones to walk 5 kilometers on roads that are filled with water, where there are no bridges, and it's just a dilapidated infrastructure. So it affects the access to basic education rights. But not only that, teachers and educators are unable to reach the schools, particularly during disaster times.
Food security is also under threat.
They are physically unable to get their produce out to market. We heard from co-ops where they had to reduce the production of milk from one number to a much, much lower number because the milk goes off in the time the vehicles get stuck on the road. They are unable to get their produce out. So what does that mean? The economic situation of the province just keeps on declining because of a lack of road infrastructure.
Our research took us to the sleepy village of Machabomvu near Ngobo, a town that falls within the Chris Hani District municipality of the Eastern Cape. Here we met lawyer turned farmer Malindelwa Boy, who started a vegetable production operation with her husband in 2020.
We applied for a grant from IDC. It was during COVID time, and we submitted the application. 2021, my husband passed on during COVID. And during that same year, the grant was granted. And they gave us money to erect the tunnels, to erect the borehole, irrigation system and everything. And it was more of job creation, more social than entrepreneur. So we employed people, they funded the salaries, and they erected the tunnels, and then we started.
Edging out a market for herself hasn't been easy.
In fact, when we started, the roads were terrible, extremely. You know, I came down here with my vehicle, and that same month it was damaged because of the roads. My workers, they work about 2 hours, about an hour away, so which is 2 hours per day. And when it's raining, they can't come to work because there's a river that they have to cross, or they must leave early. It affects our operations a lot.
Akunethi imvula yengoku eyibandi kakhulu yengokindlela. Iba yi-hour ne-30 minutes because kumele ngihle ngecwecwe lonke ndiyowela phaa ebridgini kuba kusibe maninzi amanzi emlanjeni.
But he says the daily trek to the farm is far better than becoming part of the unemployment statistics, which are staggering in the province. He's gained valuable experience on the farm. Boy's client base also continues to grow as more retailers come on board.
Mama Boy supplier with spinach and cabbages sometimes, and amaxesha amaninzi uMama Boy siyathanda ilantsika i-production yakhe because i-affordable ngendlela esisimanga, so siyavuya usebenzisana naye singubhoxa.
But bad roads often complicates their business relationship.
Into esibethayo ke ngoku i-deliveries ba on time, on a morning more especially. Our spinach melo basideliver kwa early ekuseni. Then ke ngoku sibe ne-promotion in sometimes, I think it's 2 times a month. Our promotion we call it a spinach day, so it must be $7.90, $6.99. So sometimes she delays to bring us early in the morning. So yeyona ndlela sibangela uba leyo sibethakale ngayo because ispinach sisidinge ekuseni, and ilantsika i-promotion iqala ekuseni, ifuneka ukuthi kwa early sibe sesikhona even ukuze sikwazi ulantsika ufumane customers.
Boy is using her entrepreneurial spirit to turn the problem into an opportunity. She's now supplying the elderly directly on the farm.
When they go to get their grants, they would buy spinach, they would buy cabbage, potatoes, and all of those. But now we supply those from here. So meaning that they save on transport money to go to town. They save also on the money they pay, because when you buy a bag of potatoes in town, the taxi driver charges you for that bag of potatoes. So now we are assisting because we give them, like I give older persons a combo which consists of a bag of potatoes, a bag of cabbage, spinach, carrots at 150. And when you go to town, a bag of potatoes is about 150.
Despite her business growing, Maboy wants to see the roads fixed permanently.
When the civil people came from Department of Roads and Transport, you know, it was like Jesus was coming here. We were so excited because they became better, but they need maintenance every now and again. Like they've started now to be bad again. So if at least immediately after, if we have heavy rains, they come in and try and re-gravel them and make them, mend them, it would be better. But they leave them until, I mean, for quite a long time before they can come and repair them.
The infrastructure backlog in South Africa is immense, and there are no overnight solutions. But there is an ambitious plan in place, and progress is taking place across the country. In March 2024, the construction book was launched, showcasing infrastructure projects from government and state-owned companies. 153 projects were announced in the transport sector, with a total capital expenditure of more than 158 billion rand. Just over 60 billion rand is dedicated to fixing roads. SANRAL has already awarded 1.4 billion rand in contracts in the Eastern Cape. Another 3.8 billion will follow.
We're doing a lot of work in the Eastern Cape, and it is even said that the Eastern Cape is a construction site, and they are not saying that for nothing. Simply because we are working in all corners of the province of the Eastern Cape. We've got mega projects scattered around the province.
The N2 Wild Coast Road Construction Project is one of SANRAL's biggest. It connects 4 provinces. Once completed, it will provide a faster, safer and flatter link between Durban, East London and Gqeberha.
A very ambitious project for us. It is a beautiful part of the world. It's blessed with very large rivers and valleys, which require major bridge structures to be constructed. So within that project, we have about 9 bridges. The 2 mega bridges are already in construction. That's Mdendu Bridge and Msikaba.
The Msikaba Bridge near Lusikisiki will be one of the longest bridges in Africa, with a depth of 192 meters from the gorge and a width of 580 meters. The bridge will shave off about 60 kilometers and 80 kilometers from the N2 and R61 respectively, saving commuters anything between an hour and a half and 3 hours of travel time.
If you're talking trucks, of course, that's a lot of saving. It saves on cost, it saves on fuel. It's a much flatter road, which means much safer. And also, just looking at ordinary road users, the public, it means that transport costs will be reduced significantly. What roads do, they attract a fixed direct investment into an area. It means you might see also more developments down in the Pondoland.
SANRAL is also taking big steps towards economic transformation.
We've been very successful in making sure that across all our projects, at least some 30% of it, of the value of those projects are subcontracted to your medium to your small to medium contracting players, SMMEs, local employment opportunities and service providers. So you can imagine at that sort of value, multi-billion project, it does mean that sometimes you can get over $1 billion or so that is dedicated to contract participation goals, which is really about transformation and creation of participation for local players. So that's what we do. We are also taking it a step further. Our corporate affairs team has been going around the country hosting road shows for what we call a contractor development program. And the idea of that is you will be targeting through an open process, invite black players that you can incubate, that you can allocate projects and grow them from small CIDP grades to higher CIDP grades, and hopefully they can be the future blue chip companies of the construction sector.
A black-owned construction company, Masakane Project Managers, is one of the subcontractors for both the Mdendu and Msikaba bridges. This opportunity has helped grow the business and create 30 permanent jobs.
It's exciting to participate in such international projects. From day one, they were advertising such projects. They have put in international tender, hence the previous award, where the contractor failed to complete the project. But it's a very interesting infrastructure development where you appreciate to be part of in principle, it's writing of the history of this country in terms of roads network, roads infrastructure development. But this project is very important for South Africans in terms of business mobility.
The company is now striving to break the glass ceiling. SANRAL requires contractors to be at least 51% black-owned to secure tenders. Small, medium and micro enterprises are entitled to a minimum 30% subcontracting value. This has its own set of challenges.
We are working with the main contractors and the Central Group, where we are targeting to be the preferred suppliers in this region. We have taken a serious and a challenging role of aggregate supply, which has been seen in the past as a business of the previously advantaged. But we are soldiering on. The way our country has operated in the past and still operating, there are industries that are seen to be industries of certain race group or whatever, if I can put it that way, where you do not expect much of our people to participate in. And that is the decision that we took, that we want to be amongst those that participate in that space. But the very first challenge that you will experience is about resources. You can have the licenses, but the machinery to operate a quarry is a very expensive type of an operation with its own risk. But because these are public procurement, public projects, you cannot pre-invest or you cannot get any form of support. If you want to participate, you have to be on your own, facing banks. Bearing in mind that we are operating in a rural space, you are battling with collateral. Generally, what our people are experiencing as contractors, subcontractors, suppliers are issues of finance. The issue of saying there's transformation, these companies are not prepared. You will get in as a subcontractor, but when are we going to see black-owned companies reaching those standards? And what are we doing about it? That is what we need to be discussing.
Improving roads and connectivity will also have a positive impact on logistics. The country's economy loses an estimated 1 billion rand per day due to inefficiencies in the transport and logistics sector. The National Logistics Crisis Committee, established in June 2023, is a government structure with private sector participation. It's making significant strides in addressing problems by moving freight from road to rail and minimizing congestion on crucial corridors.
If I had a magic wand, I would say, please, can we invest as quickly as possible in expanding and fixing up the network and bringing it up to standard. The second thing, if I had another wish, would be to ensure that we improve competition, because competition is what drives efficiency. Getting the private sector onto the rail network, getting them into the ports, is such an important part of global competition, driving down prices. Rail have better prices and are able to export more. And they both intertwine, because better competition improves efficiency, improves volumes, gets better tax revenue, gets growth going, gets us better to be able to invest in capital expenditure and employment going.
The backlog is very significant. It's not a small thing, it is huge. So it may not be dealt with over the next 10 years, but the key thing for me is to see us working together. That is, we are making strides, we are connecting our people, there's integration of some sort, and once the district model, the development model takes shape, I think we need to relook in terms of who must do maybe certain roads in the province. We need to move from the past to say that, okay, Sandra, you'll only do this. We need to say that the key priority of government is to make sure that people can move and there's integration. And that is the challenge that we have. But we can see which way government is going. It's not our fine government's priority now is to create jobs, because we know what the economy is like. But we can then construct roads as a means towards creating that is job.
As we continue our journey along the N2 from East London to Gqeberha, the construction work continues with some road projects involving Chinese and local companies. A mostly smooth ride all the way to the Chief David Stuurman International Airport. Next stop, Central Line in Cape Town, one of the most important passenger rail corridors in the country.